And welcome to this political update in the late summer 2022. Hope you're having a good summer so far. And of course, council meetings have not been held very often during the summer as per usual, but things will be getting back to normal right after Labor Day. In the meantime, there has been some politics that has been going on, and that's what we're here for right now. The Assembly of First Nations National Chief Roseanne Archibald was in Kahnawake to meet with Grand Chief Kaahnawake's Sky Deer. Also along was Regional Chief Ghislain Picard of the AFNQL. They didn't go in with a set agenda, but they did talk about a number of issues. But what came out of it, I think, most importantly, was the fact that they will be looking at ways to better work together to address some of the issues that are important, not only to Quebec's chiefs, but Kahnawake in particular. And there is a relationship because the national chief was nominated. It takes two communities to nominate, and Kahnawake was one of them. Archibald was elected back in 2018 for her role. And it was only a 1-hour meeting. It was followed by a trip around Kahnawake. She got a chance to look around and enjoy the sights and sounds of beautiful downtown Kahnawake. Big meeting last week with Quebec Premier Legault, and it was deemed positive. And now, you know, in Kahnawake, we have not had the greatest relationship with the province. That's been, needless to say, that's been going on for a while. But especially with the CAQ government, there has been reluctance from Premier Legault to meet face-to-face with the Grand Chief, which, of course, back when he was first elected, was Joseph Tukwirda Norton. Upon his passing, he didn't meet with Kaahnawake's Sky Deer either. So last week was a change, a long-awaited meeting, which was looked and sounded pretty positive. They did meet face-to-face. They did talk about Bill 96. They did talk about the need to revitalize the Kahnawake language and the works that we do and the frustrations that we're having here in Kahnawake because of Bill 96. There are other issues, of course, on the table, but that was the big one. And there was a bit of a commitment from Quebec to participate a little more fully in the big multi-purpose building project, which will house the new cultural center, museum, theater, and public space. There is an announcement probably coming up in the near future, but of course, that is all depending on the upcoming election. So far, the CAQ looks like they have a big lead in the polls, but the election is coming up in the meantime. And like I said, Grand Chief said she was pleased with the tone of the meeting, but, quote, actions speak louder than words, and we shall see where the meeting leads in the future. Getting back to Bill 96, the Superior Court had a hearing. A group of lawyers took the issue to court. Part of the provisions of Bill 96, which would have people going to court who speak English have to present all of their documents in French, have them translated. It was felt that this is unconstitutional. What was interesting in this case is that Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, Yedzahayas Tanya Perrin, made a presentation at the hearing, and even though the MCK was not party to the lawsuit or the court action, they were allowed to present a statement and an affidavit, and it had an effect. Justice Corvo, who oversaw the court hearing, cited the affidavit in her reasons as evidence of both the irreparable harm as well as the balance of inconvenience, noting that English is the language most commonly used here in Kahnawake and other Mohawk communities in this province. She held that the possibility of delays and costs could result in limiting or impeding access to justice. Justice Corvo noted that these issues could have unique impacts to communities like Kahnawake. And again, those words were echoed in a report that came out in the Montreal Gazette. And once again, Kahnawake, by staying involved lets the province know where we stand, and also has created some allies among other communities who are being negatively affected by Bill 96, most notably, of course, our English-speaking neighbors. Just a couple of other notes before we leave here. The E. coli scare has created a situation where Recreation Bay Beach has now been closed for the season, and lots of speculation about the water and the quality of the water. But basically what's happened is the wildlife in the area, you have geese, you have ducks, you have gulls, who are all congregating at that area, and unfortunately the waste products that they leave there are right at that spot. Testing was done, and it was unacceptable levels, and it really is an effect of what I just talked about, because right across at the canoe club, it was actually acceptable levels there, but the beach was another story. So they're going to have to give this some thought on how they want to proceed in the future, because it is a nice location and people have been enjoying that beach. Unfortunately closed for the rest of the year. And finally, school buses in Kahnawake will be back to full capacity as everyone gets ready to start the 2022-2023 school year. All routes are being returned to the pre-pandemic ways that they were in the past. So things are getting back to normal, but it is still pandemic. So for the time being anyway, all students and monitors will still be required to wear masks at all times while on the bus. The drivers will wear masks when interacting, getting on and off the bus. If they go into where the kids are actually seated, they will have to wear a mask, but while they drive, they are not necessarily having to wear them, but only while they drive for safety purposes. So that's our update this time around. One final note, the Father Lajoie issue has finally come to a conclusion. And I guess it was never going to be a win-win situation, but I think we can all take a deep breath and say that's over with, and hopefully we don't have to go through anything like that again as a community, because that has been a difficult one for all concerned. So that's it. Have yourselves a good rest of the summer, and we shall see you in the weeks to come. Ko adano,